So next step is something different and something more usable in our everyday life and very, very powerful that we discovered only recently. And this is something that really changes the rule of the game. And that's why we are pushing for that. It doesn't look like something changing the rule of the game until you try it. But trust me, it really makes a huge difference in what happened in your process. So Sociocracy 3.0, and they call it this way because they were putting together classic sociocracy. Sociocracy is very old. It's coming from 2 centuries ago, basically, as a methodology of making decisions and run a community and so on. But then they brought agile concepts and lean concepts, so very modern way coming from the IT revolution, from the field of high productivities in businesses, to put together something bringing the best from this different way of dealing with decision-making, organization, management, and so on. And, but is hidden, I bring it to you, nonviolent communication. And many of the things you find in this methodology are really referring to that way of creating human interactions. So, sociocracy is based on a set of principles that you have to respect all together. You can't choose one of them because you like it. You have to respect all the different principles at the same time. And there are ways to do this very, very effectively. But in particular, this is just a very quick presentation. And I'm not going in deep. I will leave you, but there's a website with everything in it, and there are tons of videos if you want to go deeper. But what I want to stress is there are these 2 principles that are really changing the game forever. And one is the equivalence. The principle of equivalence says that everyone that brings a good observation that can change the policy can do it, and that everyone who is touched by the policy, by the activity, by the thing we are deciding about, will be in the possibility to bring this thing that we call objection. We see it later. So this is a big change. Majority, minority, things like that completely disappear from the process. There's no way to be more than the other and decide. Okay, first thing. Second thing, the methodology that we use to get to the final decision is this consent methodology based on objection. And these 2 things combined create a different universe in which you are moving your activities. So we have that set of principles, and we had a wide variety of patterns, which means that as many other methodology, they organized their structure saying, okay, every time in your everyday work, you face a particular problem, a particular situation, we can provide to you a way to manage that kind of situation. Follow these little rules, follow these little steps, and you will be fine and inside the methodology. But again, you don't need to think about all this at this moment. This is not the point. Reality is that many of these patterns can be substituted with other stuff that you already know. and it will make a very little difference, okay? So these are designed to work perfectly together with this methodology, but there are many of the things that you already know how to do it, no need to study a different way. The two things that are really game-changing is this consent decision-making we were talking about, so that pattern, and the role selection methodology. So let's see how the decision-making works using this methodology. So first of all, everyone that is going to be touched by the final decision we are trying to make, whatever is the decision is, it can be small or can be very big, no? Needs to have the possibility to bring the objection of the proposal that we are creating. And everyone should be informed and agree on the goal. The goal must be clarified properly at the beginning of the process. It seems obvious, but very often it's not like that. Also because very often we have a public goal, which is not the goal of the one organizing the process. So we must get to have clarity on the goal, but the process takes care of this also because it's intrinsically safe. If you try to go into this process declaring a false goal, it will emerge along the process and you will fail, okay? So no matter if you start with goodwill and good intention, or if you start trying to manipulate people, it really doesn't matter, because if you're trying to manipulate people, you will fail along the road and the process will stop before the end. If you start with good intention and with clarity, then you can run the process and have the good results of the process. And this is already great. If you are the one with the responsibility, you can really move a lot of that responsibility to the mechanic of the process, which is great. You remember when many meetings ago, we were talking about the story of the cake and the two people that had to divide the cake in an equal way, okay? And we said, if you give the knife to one and the right to choose which piece to take to the other, we create a self-healing process between the two. So you give the responsibility to the mechanic of the process. And we have a lot of industrial products working that way. You know, when we talk about intrinsic safety of a system, is the way to design the system that is self-repairing, is self-protecting from risks, without you having to watch, without you having to stay there and to be the guardian of the process. This is more or less the same way. So we need to have a goal, a clear goal. And on that goal, we need to get to the point that we have a proposal. And this can be in many different ways, depending on what you are doing, okay? In the end, you will have a proposal. This can take 5 minutes or can take 2 months of work of a group building up the proposal. Then you have the proposal, and what's happening is that the proposal is not something belonging to those creating the proposal, but from this moment, the proposal is a responsibility of the group working in this process. So is everyone proposal from that moment on. From here, you have a complex way, not very complex, but there are steps you have to do. But what is important, in the end, how do we decide if the proposal is good or not, is through this idea of the objection. Anyone in the group who is able to bring an objection to the proposal, put everyone in the position to change the proposal. And that's why, because the process will end only when there's no more objections. from the group. If we don't have any more objection, that is a decision. And it will be a decision following the principle until we discover that that decision is not good anymore. Okay? So there is this idea of constant reanalyzing things. Then the objection is regulating the process. And why this is important? Because we have to understand what is an objection. An objection is an argument relating to the proposal that reveals consequences of risk you'd rather avoid or demonstrate a worthwhile way to improve the proposal itself. So basically, you can think the objection of a simple way to harvesting distributed intelligence. So the proposal gets scrutinized by the group. The group knows about the goal. And if somebody in the group can bring something saying that there is a risk in what we are doing, and the risk can be we are not getting to the final result doing this way because this and that. So it must be very well motivated. Or somebody sees a way to make the proposal much better. The term that they were using at the beginning is a paramount way to improve the proposal. So something bold, something big in the change. Then we have to stop and fix the objection until the objection is finally fixed. If we can't fix the objection, then there's no way to approve the proposal because it means it lacks of quality or there's a risk standing there that we don't know how to avoid. That's why we consider the objection a gift to the process because it's there to make us better in the decision that we make. It's there to connect ourselves to reality. It's there to avoid risks, problems in the future, and so on. And what is very important is that an objection is not a preference. So painting the wall pale green or dark green, unless you have something very crucial on that color, that will never be an objection. It will never be validated as an objection because every objection is validated on the driver and on the goal. Now, when you start using this methodology, this may seem very arbitrary. You have this question in your mind, who decides if an objection is an objection or not? Oh, this can be very, very tricky. This can be very arbitrary. This can really depend on the one facilitating the process. This can be related to the power of the one making the proposal. So if he or her is a very important person, is very good in explaining, then it will twist the final decision. Well, when you start practicing this, you will discover that instead it's quite clear how to validate a proposal if everyone has a good understanding of the goals and of the drivers, okay? And this will change deeply the quality of the proposal that you can approve and the meaning of the proposal that you can approve. This kind of methodology are now also called sense-making methodology because the scope is to connect to reality and to the meaning of the activity that you are doing instead of connecting to a narrative that you are bringing to the people trying to decide, okay? Or instead of connecting to an ideology that tells you that this is good, this is bad, so we have to go this way because my ideology says this is good, okay? And today we really need that. I mean, scientists and people working on sustainability and on everything think we need for the future is screaming for that. We can't decide the old way by majority or like that. We have to decide on meaning, even if this can be painful, even if this can be difficult, even if the decision is not something sending you home happy and joyful because you make that decision. So another interesting thing, this is something that can be very light, despite what you can think at the beginning. It can be very quick. And also it gives you possibilities that are even more important at this stage of our history, which is now that you don't have numbers in the game. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you are. It doesn't matter how many you are. The only things that matters is if you can bring an objection, then you can bring to participate to this kind of processes humans, but also non-human entities. Because like in a role play, you just put in the group somebody. Bringing the instance is not representing. We are not moving on representing here. The one bringing proposal is not representing, but we want diversity to bring that particular point of view. And the one who's coming is not representing the group, is just someone that can bring that piece of reality into the discussion, and someone who is touched by the policy we are developing. These are big differences. So then we can bring the river in the process of decision, particularly now that we are giving to rivers, to forests, to mountains, a jurisdictional presence in our systems. Okay, we have nations that that have mountains in their constitutional act. Okay, and they are taken as a many big rivers now have the status of the juridical body. Ganges, the Nile, the Amazonian River. To protect them, they are giving a legal voice to that piece of territory. And of course, this is a big scale, but we can do the same with a small scale of our cities. Like recently, I give you a practical example, in a town near here in Ferrara, there was Bruce Springsteen bringing a huge concert. And of course, they were putting the concert in a park for the citizen. And everyone was very worried because they said, okay, they will destroy completely a public good doing the concert there. And of course, there was no discussion on that. There was a lot of protest, but the final decision was to do the concert. The concert happened just after the flood. Maybe you know that we had this huge flood here in Italy. So the park was also very damped. And the park is completely devastated by this event now. It's completely destroyed. And of course, the park was no part of this decision. Nobody asked the park if it was happy to be the host of the concert of Bruce Springsteen. With this kind of methodology, we can do that. And even more, we can bring artificial intelligence to participate to the process. Why we can and why it can be safe? Because the point is, if the artificial intelligence can be integrated and can bring, given the capacity of artificial intelligences to collect information in a very quick and wide way, resourcing where probably we will never have the possibility to go and search in a day-by-day activity. If the artificial intelligence is bringing a validated objection, why not? It's just showing us a risk, or is showing us a way to radically improve the proposal. So why we don't want them to be part of the process? It's just to add a power to our capacity to make decisions. So the final message, if you like, on participative processes, and the reason why we want to call people to participate is, let's somehow update a little bit our understanding of this kind of process, connect a little bit with the difficult situation we are living at European level, but at global level, and find a way to explore different and maybe more efficient way to improve the quality of the process and to use tools that are more suited for this difficult time, where very often we will be in the position of not really knowing which way to go. We will be in a place where having the power of wisdom of the crowd can really be important for us, to avoid mistakes, to save time, to avoid to go for old ways, instead of jumping to the state of the art of a certain area that we are exploring, of a certain process. Okay, so that's it. Just to resume, the possibility that you get with this methodology is that you have a really fully inclusive methodology, because you are forced to call in the process, in the decisional process, everyone who will be touched. And you can also decide to enlarge even more if you feel the need, but basically you have to start from that, and that is a big jump. Is safer because has a lot of mechanisms that are intrinsically safe. So you don't have to be there to be vigilant, because the mechanisms are self-healing if something goes the wrong way, if something is trying to control, if something is trying to develop his own plan instead of following the idea of the goal. You certainly can improve the quality of the final decision. Very difficult to be manipulated as a kind of process because of his internal safety, and is really cheap and usable day by day, because even small group can be organized without having to structure a very complicated process. So if you have some question, the final idea is that this kind of methodology can provide for you many different ways of use, so we can really use it widely in our new trade. Of course, you don't have to resort to that only, but it's a possibility. Stefano?
Well, thanks, Cristiano, for your insights. I just have a question and an observation. My question is relating to non-human entities and their involvement in the participative process. How can natural entities like the park you quoted, or I don't know, animals and trees, plants, how can these natural entities can actually express their objections or their perspective? So this is my question. My observation relates to AI, to artificial intelligence. I just want to stress that it's anyway human biased. So I don't know if you can add something on on this topic, because it's not a neutral technology, and it's not like that it can provide answers to any kind of problem, because it's human biased anyway. So if you can add a little bit on these 2 points, please. Thank you.
Yeah, it's easy. The first problem is that until you use it, you don't really get how the objection works. So you keep to have the same worry that you have in the other participative process. So doesn't matter. Everyone participating in the activity will be biased in a way or in another. We are all biased. There's no way to avoid that. We are all coming with our own position, but it doesn't count in this kind of process. You have to be able to make an objection. Doesn't matter if you are biased. If you are biased and you have a good objection, it's a good objection, finished. We want to take it. It's a present, it's a gift for our process, because you are avoiding to us error, or you are improving the quality of the thing. It's very difficult to get until you practice this for a while, and you see how it changes everything while you use it. Second, you make people participating. So AI is not a problem. It can be biased the way we want. It's just fishing at the moment, at this stage, it's just fishing stuff around and putting together. So it might be coming out with something very stupid. It will never be qualified as an objection. So no problem. But if it can bring something interesting, why not? I like it. For the non-human entities, you can act like in a role play. You just decide that you need to have that position in the group, and you assign to a human that position. Maybe you'll try to choose wisely that human, but again, even if you make a bad choice on the human representing the river, well, in the end, the objection mechanism will heal that, but at least you are trying. And also it creates a cultural jump where we have this idea that, yeah, we have to pay attention to what that element is thinking, because we are not separated from that element. This is the way we deal with the world at the moment, no? Like if we were something different from the biosphere. But unfortunately, or fortunately, we are part of the biosphere. Everything happening to the biosphere is happening to us. So we really need to connect to that. And here you have a way, a starting point. Might not be perfect, might not be the final solution for the enlightenment of humanity, but is probably much better than the way we do at the moment.
I would just love to have an example, to not just look at it in this well, theoretical framework. I would love to have an example of this methodology really working.
You have to do it. There's no other way. I mean, I can give you 200 examples of decision making like this, but I mean, the only way is to try yourself, to understand what's happening. Unfortunately, the theory gives you a very vague idea on how the process will change, but I assure you that when you start doing, you will see that, okay, after the first run, you will never make a proposal the way you did it the first time, because now you see what happened to your proposal in the group. Next time you're writing a proposal, it will be completely different from the first time, because now you are starting to understand what is the process. So you will try to see objection while you are writing, and you will, at the beginning, every group starts behaving like in our normal world. They try to bring your friends in the group with the idea, oh, if we are more, we are winning. And then they discover it doesn't work. No matter how many of your friends you brought in the group, doesn't matter, because the ability to make an objection, to bring an objection, is the only thing that matters. This really changes the dynamic in a very, very deep way. And unfortunately, like many, many things in our lives, the only way to really grab the thing is to practice a little bit, because it's like love. If I explain to you what is love before your first love, it looks like a bad disease, basically. Oh, your heart will beat, you will be all excited, you don't understand anything. I mean, you don't really get what is it until you try, and this is for like that for many things, like skiing, like playing tennis. I can give you the manual, but you understand the thing just playing. This is why we encourage everyone to try it. Maybe you can try it and say, okay, this is not my cup of tea, you reject it. But at least try to understand how this will change your way to interact with other humans. This can be important, okay?